True Talk, brought to you by TRULAND Equipment. Join us as we explore cutting-edge machinery, groundbreaking technology, and inspirational stories from the field.
From the dedicated efforts of our team members to the triumphs and challenges of our farmers, True Talk brings you along every step of the way.
Whether you're a seasoned agriculturalist or simply curious about the industry, tune in to discover the fascinating intersection of technology, agriculture, and green machines.
True Talk, cultivating true conversations. Welcome back to our latest episode of True Talk, and boy, is this going to be a fun one today. Joining myself, we have Courtney. Courtney.
Hey, everyone.
And Josh is back to join us.
Hello.
And then our special guests, plural, we have two joining us for this episode. Tyler, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. Tyler Woodbury out of the Edgerton, Ohio location, customer support technician, and then also on the corporate scale, CST for the hay and forage side as well.
And then our extra special guest is Nelson. Since we work with Tyler all the time, we're used to hearing him talk, but we get to hear Nelson today too.
Yeah, hello everybody. Nelson, Knobloch. I'm one of the product and system specialists, so I cover hay and forage. I work for Deere and Company, and get to work with TRULAND as one of my dealers, but I cover about 4 states, kind of focused on everything in hay and forage, from forage harvesters, mowers, balers, utility tractors, compact construction equipment, kind of the whole fleet. That's not kind of your traditional production ag. So.
And just for good measure, what's your alma mater?
My alma mater is the Purdue University. So we'll get a wow. Stands for Tradition, Honor, Excellence. Oh wait, no, that's Ohio.
The list keeps growing and growing. We like it.
So we're going to be getting more selective with our guests and only having Purdue grads on here. So.
Pretty high ratio in this room right now.
Yeah.
This is not looking good for me.
Well, as you can tell, the specialists in the room or our guests for today have a niche in the hay and forage market for our customers. So do you just want to talk through what does John Deere, starting off for the people who don't know, what does John Deere's product lineup look like to serve those customers?
Yeah, for sure. If we we'll start with the big ones. Forage harvesters. So we haven't been in the pull type market. We have a partnership with Dion, but other than that, everything we have for forage harvesters today is self-propelled. So smallest model, 425 horsepower, all the way up to the biggest one, which is 970, which would be that 9900. So some people are familiar with that, but full range of products within there to kind of fit a variety of customers. We offer a large square baler, built in Ottumwa, Iowa, round balers. We have coming from both France and from Ottumwa, mower conditioners, windrowers. We have some partnerships with some through Frontier on hay tools. So your rakes and tedders. Tyler, what else am I missing?
I mean, I think you got about all of it right there. Just within the actual hay side with the forage harvester and what it's compatible with. I mean, did we cover balers and all that stuff too? I mean, yeah. I mean, that's pretty good, some of what it just covers.
Yeah. What else do you want to know?
Well, I think we want to know a lot. One of the reasons I'm sitting in this room is because this is a subject matter that I don't know much about, and I think it's going to be an interesting subject matter to listen to. I want to clarify that. You know, those of us on the Indiana side would have a significantly less, opportunity to intermingle with that kind of technology. And Tyler introduced himself. Yes, he's part of our team, but he definitely has a niche that probably the majority of our team members don't know anything about as well.
Yeah, correct. About a year and a half ago, I was asked to do a lot of the coverage for the hay and forage side. Something I didn't grow up with a whole lot, but went to a bunch of trainings and classes and just kind of found that it's something I like to do and kind of have a passion for, so I just started running with it.
Yeah.
On the Deere side, going through that lineup to me, and I don't know that you have an answer for this, but I think it's interesting. It could have been so easy for John Deere to say, hey, there are companies out there that are doing this let's let them handle it. Yet we did dive into the self-propelled forage harvesters and things like that. I mean, what do you think about that? What's that say about
No, great point, Josh. So we've been in the self-propelled chopper business for over 50 years, I believe. 22, we celebrated that. And there's over 20,000 units in the market today from Deere, which is super exciting. So something we're not new to by any means, but I would say in the last probably 3 to 5 years, we've made a significant push and probably pivot in our strategy from not just being focused on traditional production ag of combines and tractors and sprayers and planters. I mean, that's what Deere is known for. We do those really, really well, but we do the rest of this market really well too, but maybe haven't historically been as focused on our dairy and livestock customers. And so that's something we've really tried to focus on. And then how do we share technologies across those portfolios to make that a common experience and to kind of, make that easy to get into if you're more familiar with maybe more of our mainstream products and technologies.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot on here about the green on green solution.
Yeah.
So that is something that, this podcast is hosted by the IS department. So you have to think about how much technology we're talking about, even if it's something as simple as sales. So similar cab, I would say, in cab experience.
Yeah. If you hop in the cab of like a modern John Deere forage harvester, you would recognize that it looks a lot like what a S-Series machine for a combine would look like. It's a lot of the similar controls with some added ones here and there, but for the most part, it looks just like a S-Series combine when you hop in the cab.
Okay, you opened the can of worms. What are the added features?
Well, there's an extra toggle switch for the spout flap, moving it up and down, moving the spout side to side and stuff like that, where S-Series combine would not have that. And just some other functionalities with the head and stuff like that. On the side console, just some of the dials have different functions than what the combines would have and stuff like that. So,
yeah. Do we want to back up a little bit, kind of comparing choppers to combines, and maybe talk about what the goal is of the machine and maybe what type of customers are buying those? Would that be? Yeah, so if you look at, say we're talking about a forage harvester, right, and who's looking to buy one of those, typically it's going to be maybe anywhere from a small to mid-sized dairy, maybe on the smaller end of the machines, up to there is a lot of custom chopping crews or operators that run from throughout the world, honestly. And you'll anywhere from one-man shows that they just run one chopper up to fleets of 10 to 15, probably on the biggest. And then as far as what we're trying to actually accomplish machine-wise is everything comes back to whatever we're trying to feed. Typically, it's cows.
Yeah. Typically, it's just the dairy and livestock.
Yeah, so mostly beef and dairy is probably the two biggest ones. And the goal is to do as much processing up front, so that way we can maybe minimize the work later in the feeding cycle. We can optimize it for proper ensilement, so we're going to get the best feed quality out of it to ultimately put either the most pounds in the freezer or put the most milk in the tank we can out of the least amount of feed. Right? That's how these livestock producers are going to make their money. So basically, we're going to take, if we're talking corn, we're going to take the entire plant, cut it off at the bottom. And unlike a combine where we're just taking the ear into the machine, we're going to take the entire plant in. There's a big, basically rotary knife in there, big drum, that basically acts like a big set of scissors, and it cuts that into pieces about 3/4 of an inch long. From there, it moves itself back through horsepower and inertia through what we call a kernel processor. And so then we're taking all of those 3/4 inch pieces, and we're going to size those down and able to rip open every single one of those kernels. We're trying to get access to the starch, so that way it'll break down better. We'll get proper ensilement, and then when it hits the cow's digestive system, they can extract all the energy out of that, and none of that ends up in the manure. So we're trying to optimize just how much of that energy can be processed and removed from the cow. From there, it goes out the spout. It's only moving about 90, 95 mile an hour.
Yeah, they said it's about the speed of a fastball when it comes out of the end of the spout. So definitely want to keep that away from truck windows and all that stuff.
Which, speaking of trucks, they're not tractors. So you want to talk about that?
And yeah, it depends on the operation, on again what size machine you have. So somebody that would have like a 8,000 machine versus a 9,000 machine, that's our narrow body versus our wide body machine. A lot of the customer base that I've seen who have the 8,000 machines usually load into tractors that have wagons behind them and load out that way. The custom guys that I run around with that use a lot of the 9,000 machines, 9,900s, 9,800s, typically load into semis with dump trailers in them or Meyer boxes that have live belts on the bottom of them. Just with the sheer horsepower of the machine, just seems to load better that way, in my opinion.
Yeah, mix of you can get up and down the road faster. Typically in a large, I'd say 700, 750 horsepower plus, I'm going to fill a truck anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. So I'm probably going to be filling anywhere from a range of 10 to 15 trucks an hour. So when you think about your logistics cycle, right, I'm going to need to be able to either move quickly or have more trucks. I have some customers in the area, especially like up in northern Michigan. They run a lot of tractors, and part of that's workforce skill set, and having CDLs and some of those things that runs into that too. But we're hauling anywhere from 20 ton to 40 ton of feed at a time in each one of those wagons. So from there, it makes its way to either a bag. You may see those anywhere from 7 to 12 foot in diameter. There's a bag loader that basically packs it in there, and then they seal the bag, and it ferments for a minimum of 60 to 90 days. Or you'll see them make literally a pile of feed. It'll look like a small mountain, and they will drive a lot, 4-wheel drives, some row crop tractors over it. And the goal is to get they're packing that silage down. They're trying to get all the oxygen out of it, and then we're going to let digestion break down and let it actually ferment that feed. It's kind of like the process of making like beer or something like that, right? We're gonna seal it off, and it's gonna ferment, and then it keeps for upwards of a year, if not more, once it's sealed in well.
I appreciate you getting into the actual feed part of this, because there could be people listening to this podcast that have no idea, have never seen it, never heard about silage before, and you did a good job. So the reality is you brought in feed efficiency. So we're doing all this stuff to make sure that the animal has maximum feed efficiency, right? And it translates, as you said, to dairy production and beef production. And don't typically, a lot of that comes down to the plant and that process, but John Deere, it sounds like, has done a really good job of mixing the mechanical part into that process as well. And when you talk about the sheer amount of volume, there's a time from an agronomic standpoint when that plant is prime for harvest, right? And that's why we need to have these machines ready to go. That's why they have that processing mechanization built into them. And we need to be able to haul the tons that we're hauling at one time to get that plant harvested and out of the field in that window, right? And I think it's important that our listeners understand that process for sure. So,
and when you're talking about feed and animal nutrition, balancing feed rations and all of that, because that's what ultimately this is all for. Do you want to talk about the technology options that come with Harvest Lab and how all of that helps kind of monitor that, and then how that comes into play from a feed component, and how we're actually utilizing data and technology to better understand what we're feeding our livestock?
Yeah. So the Harvest Lab 3000 was introduced probably around 2016, 2017. Its predecessor was just the standard Harvest Lab. That came out mid-2000s, but what the Harvest Lab 3000 does is it mounts onto the spout of the actual machine, and as that crop flow is passing that near-infrared sensor, it takes snapshots of that feed and basically reads what the moisture, dry matter, ADF, NDF, ash, sugars, the list goes on and on of what we can read. Protein levels, of what we can read of that. And that sensor reads, I think, 2,000 times a second.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, so, it constantly takes snapshots of that feed processing and sends that information right to the display where the operator can view it. and then also sends that data to Operations Center to make a layered map of where the field produced, basically.
Yeah. And some of the values that we can get from that is maybe we want to look at the differences between different crop, varieties, and the differences in digestibility, or there's some of those constituents that are very closely tied to a crop nutrition deficiency in some of those, and so
Soil types.
yeah, exactly. So then we can turn around and we can manage that crop better and optimize it for feed quality. And maybe I see that variety X in one of these fields is going to perform better, and so then I can try to kind of optimize that system to maybe reduce costs and or get better yield out of that. Some of the other things when we look at the technology around that system is we talk about mixing some of the mechanical is infinitely variable length of cut. And so basically that cutter head spins at a consistent speed. And so your feed roll drive is going to run hydraulically. So that way, no matter what the speed of the crop is doing or the speed of the machine and how that relationship happens, I can guarantee that I'm going to keep my consistent length of cut. Length of cut is very much tied to how long that product dwells in the cow's digestive system, how long it stays in the rumen, and then also how it packs depending on what the moisture level is. We have some technology that'll actually vary that length of cut called auto locker, but it'll vary that length of cut depending on what the crop moisture is. So there's a few different things we're doing in there. And the other one that we should probably talk about technology-wise is kernel processing.
Yeah,
That's
our KP scores is going to be the one that our nutritionists look at pretty heavily too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And so I would say today I feel like we have some of the best options as far as kernel processing goes in the market. It's a very intense part of the corn processing. When we look at processing corn silage, we're typically pulling a quarter or more of the horsepower. In a 9900, we're pulling 375 horsepower just to run the kernel processor.
Yeah, and that's why if there's any viewers wondering why do we have to have 970 horsepower within a machine, it's because that kernel processor, imagine taking 12 rows in of whole crop into a machine and you're shoving it through a 2 millimeter gap. Yep. I mean, basically the thickness of a credit card. You're shoving all 12 rows of that crop through the thickness of a credit card. And so to be able to do that, you have to have that horsepower that can be able to handle that and to run that as well.
Right. And again, I'm glad you brought that up again for the audience again who don't know. You're talking about kernel processing. It's not like a combine where you're taking the kernels off the cob. You're literally grinding and shredding those kernels that are a little bit higher moisture. Right. So it takes a little bit of a different type of technology to do that, and not only cutting up the plant, but processing those kernels and getting those mixed in as well.
I mean, you look at combines, traditional combines, and broken corn is a factor that it's a negative. Yeah, we take it into consideration when we're looking at how we want to improve our machines and how they're operating, optimize those in season as we're moving through. But for this process, we actually do want to break those down.
Yeah, we do want to crush it, not completely destroy it, but get it to where it's broken down enough to where it's easier for the animal to digest, basically.
And it's not like you're grinding dry feed. It's a softer.
Yeah, it is a wet kernel. I mean, if you pick it right off the ear, I mean, you're able to smash it with your fingers.
So it takes a different type of technology and process.
Which we're also not harvesting this in October, November. So
right, this is our late July at the earliest to August, September, just depending on when the plant date was.
Typically, if you're curious, moisture-wise, since we're talking about that whole plant moisture, kind of a general target is somewhere around 65%. Some guys like to chop closer to 68. Some like it closer to 60. And the challenge then becomes, how do I have an optimal moisture that I like to harvest at. How do I, run my 4,000 acres through a machine or multiple machines in a window that realistically I have 2 or 3 weeks. And so you'll see that's where some of these custom crews will come into play. And, I have a dairy that's got 3,000 or 4,000 acres they need to cover, but logistically and as far as equipment assets, it can be a big piece to handle and manage. Plus, bringing 30 to 40 employees on board just for a month to run that, and so that's definitely something logistically why the custom cutters thing has really taken off.
Yeah, the custom guys is a lot of the ones that I have dealt with. I have also dealt with smaller operations where it's a customer-owned machine, but most of my clientele base is custom operators, and a lot of people think that, oh, hey, all you need is enough choppers, forage harvesters, and semi-trucks basically get hauled out of the field. Well, it just doesn't end there. You have to make sure you have enough tractors on the bunk to pack all that silage, because I've been in situations before where basically the operation gets shut down because we got too much heading to the bunker or the feed bags. So I mean, you kind of have to look at that aspect of the operation too as well.
Where the bottleneck is.
Yeah, you got to basically make sure there's no bottlenecks in the operation to slow anything down.
So we've talked about obviously some technology already, Harvest Lab, and I'm gonna kind of throw you a question off the spot here. So what separates us, John Deere? Maybe 2 or 3 things. Okay, we've talked about a little technology. Obviously, we've got the dealership network, and I'm not going to try to steal an answer from you. But what are 2 or 3 things that might set since we're talking about silage harvesters, our product apart from a competitor?
Honestly, the thing that I've seen bringing these machines out to demo to customers, their biggest thing that they've noticed is service and support. Where our dealership and John Deere and Company as manufacturer, they have a variety number of dealerships in the area that are basically aftermarket. So after the machine is sold, that we have that support group and that serviceability to where we can fully make sure that customer is taken care of after they buy the machine.
It's a big deal, obviously.
Obviously, I mean, that's where it comes down to when we deal with customers that we bring these machines to. It's like, what's your service and support like? And we try to keep our dealership personnel trained, up to date, take them to classes, trainings, just to make sure that they're up to date on all the maintenance side and basically just being able to take care of customers on that side of things.
And part of the reason that's dealer support specifically is so important is if I look at, the cost to run, typically if I have a whole crew on staff, say, custom operators, a lot of times, some charge by the ton, some by the hour. Let's figure by the hour. Most of them are somewhere in the range of $3,000 to $4,000 per hour to be on that farm. And so when I think about downtime, downtime's always important when it comes to minimizing that in agriculture, but it's especially important and crucial in this market. And I feel as Deere, I feel I know I have my green paint on my arm here today, but I feel like we have the best dealer network in the world, regardless of the industry, and TRULAND is no exception to that. So that's, I'd say, number one, probably. But also, if the product isn't there to deliver, service and support isn't going to take you all of the way, right? And so I'd say when it comes to feed quality, performance in the field, reliability, quality across the board is really important, just to make sure that they can depend on that machine to go out and run. Is always a big one. Technology and the integration across the board is huge. I would say Harvest Lab is a small part of that. A lot of times that's the golden child that gets the cap. But when we start looking at the integration with our GPS tech, which is a lot more familiar to most people, but being able to use something like machine sync, right, where I can sync that follower tractor with the chopper, it might almost be more valuable there than it is in a combine situation, because I'm unloading 100% of the time. Right. So there's technologies like that. When I get into some of the other ones with, we've got an autofill system for the spout. The GPS systems are, obviously huge, and being able to run some of these new techs like AutoPath, there's just not a lot of other options as far as getting that all integrated from one manufacturer besides with Deere. But again, right, we're focused on the cow. And if we can't deliver the feed quality, we're not even going to get a step to the door. And I feel like we do a fantastic job of delivering that today.
And one of the biggest things going back on technology is when harvesting corn is row sense, that takes a lot of stress off the operator as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just being those row feelers being on the center of that head, being able to guide that machine through the corn rows while the operator can focus more on loading into trucks and make sure that we're packing those trucks full as we can and making sure our fill is nice and even. That's big technology that we try to focus on too as well.
And you brought in, AutoPath and Machine Sync. We've talked about those in previous podcasts, and one of the benefits of those we talk about is not always having to have the most experienced operator in the cart in regular harvest, which would be in the truck during silage harvest. And when you talk about the large crew you need to pull this harvest off versus a regular corn harvest, I can see those technologies being magnified. Again, you may not have the most experienced driver in the trucks, so having Machine Sync again allows you to have a larger workforce that maybe doesn't have quite the experience in order to keep them engaged, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the downside of running semis, even though that we can run down the road faster and have more capacity within a semi, we can't run that Machine Sync within a semi. But yeah, we can run them in tractors, but we just can't run them in actual semi trucks. So
yeah, but even being able to pull, having more universal modems and cellular connectivity, being able to track your logistics of your semis is a pretty good example of where that technology story continues to build over and over. So,
and a couple of my custom crews that I help with, they run a lot of M modems, or they look to raise their tracking to basically track their fleet as they're running up and down the road. So they know, okay, this truck's about to enter this field. He can see where the forage harvester is at, so he can come in this side of the field, so that way we can just, cut that time down of wasted time as much as possible. And like Nelson said before, downtime is a big thing with these guys and these operations that run these. One of my custom crews told me that they hire a lot of their trucking, and downtime is a big thing for them because they pay some of these semi drivers $150 an hour. And if you have 13 semis in that field and you got a machine that breaks down, I mean, you can do the math. I mean, that adds up pretty quickly.
You can, I can't.
Just on the trucking side of what it costs when you have a machine go down, and that's where the dealer support and the manufacturer support comes in heavily on this.
So one thing I feel like we kind of glossed over, but it comes back to that bigger picture of support from a dealership level, and it's a Deere solution, but Expert Connect. So that is something that we have available 24/7 for not only mechanical, but the technology support especially. And I know, Tyler, you obviously have a lot of experience with this, but on our Expert Connect call center, we do have a separate line for SPFH. So do you want to talk about your role in that and how all of that kind of adds to that bigger picture of 24/7 support for those customers when they need it most?
Correct, yeah. So about, I'd say a little over a year ago, we added the SPFH line onto our Expert Connect app. So basically, when you call into our call center, it gives us 4 different options, and one of those options is for SPFH in-field support. They kind of had me spearhead the call center line on that. So if a customer calls in, they're having issues, and let's say it is a mechanical issue with the machine, I can then dispatch the closest location to that customer, and we actually do keep a crew of guys on call for each day. So let's say so-and-so is on call for mechanical support of forage harvesters for that day in that area. I can then dispatch them out to go out to the customer and assist them with mechanical issues. On the technology side, I can use remote display access to access the customer's display and actually walk them through a solution to getting them back and running again. So Expert Connect has been a big thing with our forage harvester customers that they seem to like. It seems like they get a faster response time with in-field support or just technology support all around.
Yeah. And we did an episode on Expert Connect, so we've covered the importance of not only us being able to man it, but customers having the comfort in it and confidence in us on the backside. So I think that it helps that we sit down and kind of talk about what we do, and, you know, Nelson, what your role is to support us as a dealership, and Tyler, what your role is to support our customers, and how that all kind of factors into support, which is a big decision for them, and competitive equipment versus going with TRULAND. So
yeah, the other nicer thing too is I really don't sleep, so I just there are times where I answer that call center line at 11:30 at night. Actually, the other night I had a customer call in at, it was probably 11:30 at night, and he picked up the phone. He's like, "Hey, who's this?" And I said, "It's Tyler from TRULAND giving you a call back." And he's like, "Holy cow, I didn't think anybody would actually pick up this late." I was like, "Well, if lucky for you, I don't sleep." So
there was one night that you, me, and Tyler, the other Tyler, were all messaging in our team's group at, like, I think it was 11:30 or midnight.
yeah, it was pretty close to midnight, and I'm looking at my phone. I was like, "Why are you guys awake?"
We have a great team. We say that every other week on this podcast, but you have a lot on your shoulders during that time because you're one person in this department that handles this specialty.
It is definitely probably my most stressful time of year, but I'd rather be doing that than anything else. So I have a passion for it, and I like doing it.
So one thing I want to call out, we've talked a lot about TRULAND as a whole. You have been doing this for a year and a half. However, TRULAND has only been in existence since last August. So little under a year. We're working up to that year mark. However, with this merger and becoming TRULAND, this is a new thing for all of the Indiana stores. So all the legacy TTG stores that have joined. Do you want to talk about how that transition is working and how we are moving to support customers in Indiana that fall into this category where they might not have had the option to purchase any SPFH equipment from us prior, but now they do?
Yeah, so me and Brian Gehog, who I kind of look up to, he's been in the forage harvester industry for, oh my goodness, probably 25, 30 years. Yeah. We have been kind of looking at customers in the central Indiana location to try and see if they would be interested in running some of these Deere machines that they may not have had the opportunity in the past to run. It has been a little bit of a slow process just because, you know, there is some just guys being worried that, hey, listen, I'm not sure if my dealership can support this. They haven't in the past. You know, what's changed now? So I mean, it is a slow process. Just trying to get some customers comfortable. But once we get the ball rolling on that, and once we get guys comfortable with, hey, listen, my dealer support can actually help me with this, and I know that I'm not going to be stuck in the field hanging out to dry, that I think the comfort level will start to continue and grow and grow and grow at that point.
Yeah, so this plays into the bigger picture of we have Nelson here to support, to educate us, and so it's not all on you and Brian's shoulders in terms of training all of us from the Indiana side. This is how we talk about it amongst our team, is the Indiana side and the Ohio side. Obviously, there's a couple outliers, but
and then throwing another Tyler into the mix, Tyler Smith, who is also a part of our Deere infield support team. He has been a big help too with helping us service and support these forage harvesters too as well.
Yep. Yeah, and he's one of our actually factory reps. He lives kind of central Michigan, close to Lansing, and like his entire job is about keeping anything kind of commercial hay and forage up and running. So he's additional assistance for our service teams, training, proper setup, after delivery from the factory, some of those things. And then of course there's a full another team of also service support as far as at the factory themselves, and then also in the field to handle all of those issues. One thing you brought up was kind of the difference of TTG didn't used to sell forage harvesters, and I don't know if you may or may not be wondering why, but typically there's a few products. I think sprayers used to be in this bucket too, but there was kind of an opt-in or opt-out side as far as like dealers working with Deere from that, as far as if you wanted to take on the additional responsibility, an investment to support that side of the business, it was there, but not every market had maybe the concentration to justify it, and so that's maybe why not every Deere dealer would maybe sell a forage harvester, but that's kind of why that's kind of the legacy TTG area is taking that on now as well.
Yeah, and in the past, there was only so many dealers in the area that had a Forage Pro contract. And on the Kenfeld side, before the merger, Kenfeld just got their Forage Pro contract maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe. But we worked with another dealer in the past that had a Forage Pro contract, and we would kind of do a little bit of business together, and just to make sure we had our customer support in our area that was interested in John Deere forage harvesters. And then once we got our Forage Pro contract, we kind of just started working the territory as much as possible to support the area that was interested in it.
Yeah, just one of those, like we talked about how important service and support is, and if they were willing to take that on, happy to sell those to those customers, but didn't want to sell a piece of equipment and not be able to support it, was kind of the general idea behind it.
So you both mentioned trainings and customer trainings. I know Tyler went to Germany, I believe, last year. Do you guys kind of want to hit on that, on the opportunities customer wise for our listeners that don't know what opportunities they have as well with doing business with us and Deere with the SPFHs?
So yeah, in December we actually took a group of customers that were interested in purchasing a John Deere forage harvester. We took them to Germany to just take a look at the factory where they are built at, what the process is to assembling a full forage harvester in a day, just kind of giving them the idea of what all the components and mechanisms and what it all takes to create one of those forage harvesters.
The gold key.
Yeah, it's basically a gold key tour of what it looks like to basically build that machine and then get it to you, and what the process is. And I think we spent 5-6 days over there, just basically checking out all the factories, because they also build the 6M and 6R tractors over there too as well.
Yeah, correct.
And they got to experience that whole side of things too as well. And they were quite impressed on how the factories work over there, and they just got to experience more of what John Deere actually puts into it to get the product to the customer.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was obviously a benefit, a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'd say there was a lot of customers that had already purchased. It was a little bit of an appreciation trip as well, and so there were some opportunities there for us to do a little bit of education and training, but also take direct feedback from customers about what are some issues that you guys see, what are things we can improve, and be able to deliver that information directly to the product and to the engineering teams that handle that. Locally wise for customers, TRULAND does a great job of hosting. I think we did a clinic this spring actually in Coldwater. We had one last summer up in Archibald, and so we typically, at least at a minimum annually, we try to do at least one event to just kind of updates of if there's been little or big changes with the product line, or hey, this is an issue we're seeing. Let's talk about how to maybe avoid that. Is there some preventative maintenance we can do, or just check on these things to make sure we don't have a failure down the road, and can really optimize those machines and provide direct training to customers around kind of service optimization, best practices, things like that.
And we have some of those also for hay customers as well. More focused.
Baler clinics too as well, mower conditioner clinics and stuff like that. We do a hay and forage day every year just to customers that are interested in checking out to see what Deere has to offer as far as hay and forage equipment. We usually host a day at a centralized location to where we talk about everything from small tractors up to our largest forage harvester and everything in between, just to kind of showcase what all Deere has to offer too as well.
So it sounds like obviously not only us as TRULAND have put some time and resources and manpower behind this, but that John Deere has as well put an emphasis on having people in our area to provide back support, education, and whatnot for this industry as well.
Yeah, we try to host as many clinics as possible to educate our customers and also our dealer personnel too as well, to get them the optimal training they need to be ready to run this in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say as those events come up, customers are welcome, and it's not just a come and listen to what we have to say, but I try to make it to as many of those as I can. My whole job is around supporting the dealers in kind of the 4-state area that I cover, and direct feedback, direct questions, things we can do to help run your equipment better, or if there's other things we can do, come. We welcome that feedback and questions.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I had when we sat down at the end of our trip, sat down with the customers that we brought with us, I sat down with them and I asked them, I said, what was the biggest positive that you guys took out of this whole trip? And all the responses were sitting down with the engineering team and working through issues or what they would like to see in the future as we continue to manufacture these machines. Because when we went to the actual Forage Harvester factory, towards the end of it, we sat down. There was probably a group of 30 of us in a room of customers, dealer personnel, and then also we had probably 5 or 6 engineers in there too that were focused from the Forage Harvester factory. And we basically just had a big powwow of what we wanted to see out of these machines and what changes we wanted to make too as well.
I love it. I love that because customers relish in the opportunity to provide feedback.
Yeah, and speak directly with an engineer too. The people who are developing these machines too as well, and that's the biggest movement that we get from making changes within the machines is just sitting down directly with the engineers and telling them what we want.
Sometimes that face-to-face feedback feels a little bit more comfortable and
it's more personal.
Yeah. And it definitely feels like it's being taken into consideration a little bit more than, Op Center. We always plug it all the time. There's a feedback button, and Deere does look at that.
Yeah,
it is just as important to them to receive feedback via the computer as it is face to face. But everybody loves to put in their 2 cents on where they could see improvements or there's room for improvements.
And being able to provide that directly to John Deere is great because obviously we're not engineering things and we're not, programming the Op Center as well. You bring up the Op Center. So I think that's awesome that they had that opportunity.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good thing that we offer to our customers. And it's also a good thing that Deere offers us too, as well as a dealership, to have our customers experience something like that.
So is that like something that's going to happen like once a year, every other year? Are there other training opportunities where you can take customers out, maybe in the U.S.? Do you guys want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. Historically, we've offered some sort of a factory fly-in to the Germany factory, kind of annually. It's changed a little bit with COVID, and a couple years ago we did kind of a modern or a little bit of a changed version. We went down to a training center.
Because I actually went to that 2 years ago where we did a fly-in to Arizona, and we had our customer fly-in out there, and they were able to go check out a machine in the field, run it in the field. We were harvesting ryegrass in a field in Arizona.
Do people do that, or is that just for training purposes?
No, there's actually farms out in Arizona.
Irrigation.
Yeah, ryegrass, triticale. They call it, sometimes you'll hear it called whole crop silage. So that's pretty common. You'll see guys plant a winter rye or triticale crop, and then they'll take it off, and then typically that comes off by the end of May, and so then I can actually turn around and put in, maybe a little bit of a shorter growth variety corn, and then I can more or less double crop a little bit too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. The dairy operation that I was out there, I asked them, I said, how many cuttings do you guys usually get out in a field? I mean, most people think farming in Arizona, I mean, you're in the middle of the desert. I mean, how much are you actually able to do? And he said, because of their nice weather that they have out there, and if they get a good water supply out there, they can do anywhere from 8 to 10 cuts a year, which traditionally out here it's 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Because they're doing theirs in our off season. Really,
Right.
that's probably their prime growing.
Well, I was out there in February taking off their second cutting.
Yeah, ideal. Yeah,
That's crazy.
learn something.
Yeah, I did too.
I'd say it's in our region here in the Midwest, like hay and forage is a little bit of a niche market for sure, and it really expands. And as you get west, I'd say west of the Rockies, forage harvesters and balers and windrowers kind of become the combines of the world, at least in their market, just because of water rights and the types of crops they're trying to grow. So very interesting from that side, but. We do try to offer, getting kind of back to customer trainings, we try to do something at least annually. Hasn't been any announcements yet on what the plan is for, typically it's over kind of the winter time. That's when most of our customers have a little bit more of a slow season. So nothing planned yet, but hopefully more to come in that world.
How many, I'm assuming you do new startups with guys on that. How many of those do you do a year, and what are those like relative to maybe combines?
This year, we haven't gotten too many startups yet just because we're still getting machines coming in from the factory. But I think last year, I traveled a lot last year starting up machines. I think we started probably 8 or 10 machines last year, just getting them started up in the field.
So what's that process like for you?
Well, just making sure, first of all, the machine, when it gets delivered in, make sure the pre-delivery inspection is done, make sure everything is up to snug before we bring it up to a customer, make sure we got technology packages loaded up, make sure basically just no little problems that we have before we get out to the field. Make sure we get our knife bolts tensioned correctly. Just make sure everything is spaced correctly. Just basic setup before we bring it out to the field. And then once we bring it into the field, then we sit down with the customer, give them a walk around of the machine, show them in cab what all the controls do, and what the technology layout looks like in the cab too as well. And then what we'll do is we'll make a pass, fill a truck, we'll dump it out, and make sure our KP score is looking good per what the nutritionist wants it at, and then also make sure our length of cut is correct too for what the machine is set for.
And typically we'll make, I'll ride with the customer for a few rounds and just put them in the seat and let them run, and kind of with that right after, and just as questions come up or what do I do here? I'm coming to the end. How do I pick the head up again? And just basic things until they kind of get the repetition of it. And then, available via the phone is, if they have other questions or, that we can help with.
So you said you did quite a few startups, with combines. Some customers roll them every year. Do you see customers doing that with this piece of machinery since it is such a special market, or do they keep them for a couple years longer than normal?
So our meeting we had in Kansas City, our Forage meeting we had in Kansas City, we're seeing customers keep these machines anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 years. I got a customer that rolls them every other year. Just because they're a custom operation and they want to, trade in when optimal hours hit. But 2 to 3 to 4 years is when the typical roll cycle is, and where we would like to see the roll cycle at too as well.
Yeah, I'd say there's a few that trade every year. Some just really like the peace of mind of full warranty and all of that. And there's honestly some customers, especially some parts of the U.S., that they'll put 1,500 hours a year on a machine. So sometimes, if that's your hour count, it makes a little bit more sense. I don't see many people in my area put on more than 700's a lot. I mean, we rarely even see 5. And I would say, I'd say you see a few that trade every year or every 2 years, but it's going to vary. I mean, there's some that keep them for 10 years, smaller dairies or something like that. They make the investment and then, they, kind of depreciate that asset out and kind of manage it from a financial side too. So kind of just depends on what your priorities are and what your business structure is.
That tells you how long of days these guys put in when you're talking 500 hours in a year, when a typical tractor might be 300 maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy in a tight window also.
In a time window, yeah. 2 to 3 months out of the year if they're doing both hay and corn with silage. But yeah, they put a lot of hours, and almost live in those machines day in, day out.
And we talked a little bit about rolling those pieces of equipment. What's the used market look like, and how do we support that?
So used market, we try to, work heavily on selling used machines too as well. And when that machine does get traded into the dealership, we do a full walk around of it, what needs, basically bringing it back to a like new machine with some hours on it. So doing rebuilds, replacing knives, just basically making sure if a customer comes and looks at this machine and is worried like, oh, this has 800 hours on it, how heavily used is this machine? We can open it up and show them we did this rebuild process. We basically brought this machine back to like new standard, but still is used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you run, 40 to 80,000 tons of product through a machine in a year, you're going to have some wear.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to, I'd say from a design standpoint, we've tried to make replacing wear parts and being able to do that quick, in a timely fashion as easy as possible. But I think I'd say a lot of dealers try to do a good job of kind of a rebuild between taking a machine in on trade and then offering again as a used machine.
I just think a lot of the time the new equipment is the shiny new toy and gets a lot of the attention, which obviously there are advancements that come with every machine, and every time you roll a piece of equipment you're trading up. But that's not realistic for maybe everybody that's in the market for a chopper. So I think that it's important that we talk about how we service those customers as well.
And I'm assuming there's an inspection process as well. We've put a lot of emphasis on that in terms of combines and planters, and we probably do a fair amount of inspections.
Correct. Yeah, there is a very in-depth and lengthy list that we go through with our inspection process when either a machine comes in at the end of the year, let's say it's not getting traded in, but it still comes in at the end of the year, and customer wants it to be fully checked over to make sure it's ready for the next harvest season again. But yeah, we basically tear into that machine and, check for all the common wear points and just cross our T's and dot our I's just to make sure we have that machine up to par when it leaves our shop.
Got a personal question.
Go for it.
Okay, so we understand Tyler, again, as part of our team and how he got into this realm of forage, hay and forage. But Nelson, for you, okay, as a Purdue person, and we know in Indiana we've kind of talked about, we haven't done a lot of this on our side. Typically our dairies are concentrated in one area. Yeah. What drew you to this area of expertise?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up actually in western Indiana, just north of Lafayette. So Indiana's is home for me. And I would say I was intrigued for sure. I grew up raising livestock, pigs and goats, so not a lot in the forage world. My dad still small square bales, and there's some fond memories of that. But I was like, I probably wasn't too interested in maybe throwing hay bales
on 100-degree days.
Right. Yeah. For the and I find it honestly kind of ironic that I ended up doing this for a living now. I think just personally, I think choppers are a little bit cooler than combines. Combines just, there's power there, but
Hot takes only. Yeah.
Not a lot of power. It's not 900 horse. But I think just the amount of the technology, the getting to work with our customers in this market. I love all of our customers, but it's just a really great group of people. And getting to see how our technology can make their lives easier, where it can, put more money in their pocket and, help them, take care of their families and make a better way of life for them is huge for me. But there's just a lot of, it's kind of a niche market, and getting to share that passion with people that maybe aren't as informed in that has been really, really fun to be involved in this world.
I think it's so funny that you mentioned quality of life. That's a huge thing that we talk about from your traditional row crop perspective when we're talking about new and advancing technologies is quality of life. But that's just a common theme in agriculture across the board, no matter if you're row crop or more of the specialty markets. So that's just something that I think you working for Deere & Company, it just goes to say how important that is and how much time and effort Deere is putting into that. So I think it's neat that you just mentioned that.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not necessarily forage related today, but I think that's where autonomy fits really well, right? And there's continual work in that world from us as far as how do we bringing that to market and making it readily available for customers. And I know there's some concerns around what does that mean? Does that mean I don't get to drive the tractor anymore? And like, absolutely not, right? Like, this is supposed to be an enabling solution, right? So you don't have to miss the kids' games, the concerts, the family events that maybe you've had to miss in the past because the crop's got to go in the ground or it's got to come off. And if we can at least provide an option to, hey, I can just turn the combine on and let it run, or I can turn on the tillage tractor and let it do its thing, and I can go enjoy, my family time and the things that are most important to me. I think that's a huge win.
Get to versus have to. I mean, I don't think you're ever going to take the, agriculture that everybody says farming isn't just a job, it's a way of life. And the whole family has to buy into that same mentality. And so I think that you're hitting the nail on the head with that. But, yeah.
It's just ease of operating for the operators that are in that machine too. I mean, these are operators that are putting 12, 13, 14-hour days in this machine, and just giving them basically the comfort level to not be completely exhausted at the end of the day when they get out of that machine. Just
part of that's just safety.
Yeah, just safety too. Just making sure that they're not completely worn out when they hop out of a machine, and just making their lives a little bit easier too. I mean, just doing that as well.
Well, that was a completely unrelated little tidbit, but Nelson, we appreciate not only that, but all of your expertise that you've added today. And Tyler, you were kind of forced into this, but we appreciate it nonetheless. So yeah. I think our listeners will see all of our IS team members join us and in one capacity or another throughout this whole adventure that we're going on, starting True Talk and whatnot. But we thank you both. Josh?
Yeah, this was fun and informative. For sure.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Definitely learned a lot considering I don't do much with the SPFH. So
don't say that. You will start to. Tyler got forced into this. He already said that.
Yeah. And Andy asked me if I liked lawnmowers, and here I am now.
Lawnmowers?
If you ever get asked if you like lawnmowers, say no. I hate them.
It's the same concept. Take big grass.
Lawnmower.
Yeah. Take big grass, make small grass.
Considering Tyler already has this part handled, I think I'm okay. I'm not gonna.
You back up though, Courtney.
Yeah, I'll give Courtney a call if I ever have any trouble.
Is your software up to date? Did you key off, key on? I'm out after that.
That fixes 80% of the problems.
Well, then I'm good. I'm done.
Hey, just like our farmers need a break, so does our technology sometimes. So we just ask them to do that every once in a while. So.
80% of the time, it works every time.
All right. Well, thanks again. And if you've stayed with us this far, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to hear all of our upcoming and new episodes as they release. Until next time.
Talk to you next time.
See you later.